My name's Kieth Smith. Most of my life, I've been known as Cypher. I'm the CEO at Legacy Centre of Excellence and 70 Youth Academy, which manages the facility. And I've been doing this really since 2019. When I was a young person coming up, some of the best music ever. So you had Michael Jackson, you had Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five come out, Run DMC. So Bob Marley, of course. So I grew up around music, and I grew up around sound system. So the way because I've always been tall, and so from when I was young I was tall. So people didn't know my age. So I was DJing on radio. I was like 13 DJing on radio, 14 DJing in clubs. But I'm 14 years old. I'm like 6 foot at like 14. So people didn't ask me no one asked me my age. No one queried my age. So I've been DJing really from a very young age in dances, sound system clashes. And then what would happen is the hip hop section or whatever, I would do that section in these sound system events. Yeah, that's how I came into the music industry as a young person. I used to rap people's lyrics from songs that I liked. Yeah, so I used to rap Melly Mel from Furious Five, Run DMC. I used to rap their lyrics and I'd know all of their verses. So I suppose I've always had that thing where I've been able to hear something, so I can hear words, and I probably only need to hear it once, and I know people, I can rap the lyric, do you know what I mean? So I used to rap people's verses. So what happened is I got family in London, so every year I used to go down to London and spend time with them. They used to live in Tottenham, an area called Tottenham in London. And in Broadwater Farm, they had this festival. So there's a part of Tottenham called Broadwater Farm. They have a park. So I went in the park and they were playing Rakim. So I don't know if you know who Rakim, who from Eric B and Rakim is. You probably wouldn't, a lot of people wouldn't know, but he's a legend. He's like one of the real first proper MCs of this era. So I heard him and I was like, nah, I need to be doing this. So I started off with my little raps and whatnot. But remember, I'm DJing and I'm not really perfecting the rap yet. So what happened is I got a passion for the rapping. So I'm doing the rapping in my house, writing, but I'm DJing in the clubs. So then picking music as a GCSE, now I've got access to equipment. Do you know what I mean? So now there's keyboards, there's drums, there's things I can, they might not know how to use it, but I can use it. And because a lot of people don't know this about sound systems, right? Most of the people who work on sound systems are very technical. So I knew how to like open up equipment, connect this to that. So I connected in my music class, the keyboard, a drum machine, drums, and I've got it wired up. Do you know what I mean? I've got it wired up. I got an amp. I got everything wired up in there. So I'm making beats now. So now it's like, okay, what do I put over these beats? And I didn't have any rappers around me. So I started to, test out my little raps on these beats. So imagine now, it's like 1990, I made the first tune, my first record vinyl. So then I went to college in Smethwick, and Smethwick College was good, man, because you had people from all over the city and the area there. Do you know what I mean? So everybody, I don't know why, I can't tell you why, but a lot of people was at Smethwick College at that time, like 1992, 93. So I started to basically, there's everybody's rapping. So first we started off with this big collective of people just rapping together, and there was about, man, it was about 10 of us. So we had a name and we called ourselves Lyric Born Clique, yeah? So this is rappers from all over Birmingham, Smethwick, Birmingham, Newtown, Handsworth, from all over the city, from all over the West Midlands, really. Now I can actually put all of my energy into music. So I got the studio in Jewelry Quarter. So we originally built a studio. I got an office in 2001 in Jewelry Quarter, and that was really so that we could push the album and what we were doing. And then gradually the office got bigger. So by 2004, we've got a studio in the office now. Do you know what I mean? And then what would happen is like people would come along and they'd be like, "Oh, could this young person here, can you help them? Because they've got nowhere to go." Because remember, this is before people had studios everywhere. This is before, nowadays you can literally go on the internet, you can go on Grime Daily, you can go on PRS website, and you can find information about how to put out a record. You got people like Ditto Music who can help you put your music out. At that time, it didn't exist. When I read, imagine I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, yeah. And when I read that book, it's kind of like, to me, it was from the position of, there's certain things I couldn't relate to, because his definition of poor wasn't my definition of poor. For me, it was kind of like, oh, well, your dad was like a chief in a school, had a senior position in a school in Hawaii. You kind of had a nice environment, and then it jumped to when you're managing millions, this is what you do with it. I respect it, and it gave me that fire in my belly in terms of reading stuff like that. But I was kind of like, okay, but how do you get to the million though? And who's actually educating the young people and our next generation around, that big gap? You started off, you had $1 million, but I want to talk about you're at baked beans and rice, corned beef. You're at this level, ground level, grassroots. How do you get to the stage of being a successful business person, entrepreneur, investor? So that's really where my passion comes from. So I literally wrote the book right, I'm going to do a brain dump. Everything I know that I've been experiencing, that I've had to do for the last 10, 15 years, buying buildings, running projects, dealing with planning permission, dealing with licenses, dealing with money management, my own mindset. Do you know what I mean? I had to learn patience. I had to learn to build a team. That there's no point me trying to read a book about accountancy and trying to do accounts and I end up messing up the accounts. Better I actually just pay the accountant. The accounts actually are better, and I've saved time for me to do the other things that I can do that I'm good at. And that's one of the things I think young entrepreneurs should learn. Build a team, focus on the things that you're good at, and get the support with the things that you're not good at. Do you know what I mean? Until you can build your skills in those areas where you're weak to the point where you're stronger in your weaker areas. Do you know what I mean? Secret Money Manual. The Secret Money Manual. I mean, I wrote that book. I think it came out 2011. I wrote that book. Imagine now, what happened was there was a financial crisis. Do you remember that? 2008, all the banks are collapsing. It's just a madness. And I was like, right. And there was a time where it was a quiet period where business is not as busy as it was. And I was like, right, I'm not gonna not do nothing. Let me just write a book here. And I just literally just got my laptop out and I wrote the book like how I write raps. Do you know what I mean? I put on one of my favorite films. So I go and put on one of my favorite TV shows or one of my favorite films, put some, one of my favorite artists, some Rakim or some Nas or something in the background. And I just on my laptop and I just wrote it. What is mortgage? What is insurance? What is a will? What is a trust? What's a foundation? The different types of businesses and business organizations. And I called it Secret Money Manual because for me, all of this information was a secret. I've had to gain that information, that knowledge on my journey through experience. And I wanted to share that knowledge, that wisdom with the next generation in a different way, because to me, there's two forms of wisdom. There's the wisdom that you learn from your own experience. Yeah. And then I think which is good, it's great, fantastic, but there's also the wisdom that you learn from someone else's experience. So for me, in the 80s, in the 90s, when the crack hit the community, I saw people that I respected, I held them in high esteem, and I saw them being destroyed. When the drum went out of business and it closed, like for me, it actually affected me. Do you know what I mean? Like, hold on a second. This building, we're gonna lose this building. I did a show in there, we've done things in there, like there's an emotional attachment. And the other thing is, over the years, I've seen so many buildings that have literally been in the black community that have gone. So there's a lot of buildings that I used to go into as a youth that they used to be community buildings that are gone. And every time you lose them buildings, it's kind of like almost a death in the family. That's what it's like. You think about like the play center, you think about the cultural center, you think about all these buildings we lose. When we lose them, it's almost like you lose a place to meet, you lose a place to connect and network, you lose a place, you lose in part of yourself. Space is important. Do you know what I mean? Space is important. It's important that we have safe spaces where we can do our thing in the way that we do our thing. So again, I got a target now. Right, it's gonna cost probably £1 million to do this. I need to do it. So I literally dedicated myself to how do we find a way to save this building and to take it into the future.